Okay, guys, we're live. I'm just going to give it a second to make sure that we're connected on Facebook. Always takes a little second here. Okay, we're good. And I'm going to go live on Facebook and Instagram, and then we'll be all set. Just giving it a second. Okay, we are good. We're on Facebook and now Instagram. Always takes a second. Okay, perfect. So we're live on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere. No tech issues today. It's a good day. So I hope you're all having a wonderful Tuesday, an awesome start to your week. So today we're talking about blood sugar, insulin resistance, and like the thing is, so I just want to pre-frame this because most people, most women are told the same thing when they see their blood sugar creeping up or they hear about blood sugar because it's being spoken about everywhere these days. Or when they see that their A1C is a little higher, they get their blood work back, or when they're told that they may be insulin resistant or they have PCOS and they suspect insulin resistance, they're often told the same thing. And the first thing that they hear is just cut carbs, just lower your carb intake. And it sounds simple, but for a lot of women, that advice leads to a very frustrating cycle, right? You cut carbs, your energy tanks, you crave more sugar, you end up feeling worse, not better. And yet still you see this everywhere, right? You see on social media, you see it maybe you hear it from well-meaning friends, maybe even sometimes even your doctor. And here's what most people don't realize is carbs are not the villain. Your brain runs primarily on glucose, on sugar. Your muscles need it for strength, for endurance, for recovery. And your hormones need carbs for, just overall growth and repair. So the real problem isn't carbs themselves. It's that for many women, the context and the capacity for how their body is able to handle carbs changes, especially during perimenopause and menopause. And I hear it from so many women that I talk to on a daily basis, whether it's, on message, right, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, through on the phone. And, especially when they're going through the perimenopausal transition, or they're postmenopausal, and they feel like their body's just not, reacting the same way, not responding the same way. And they start to, try all the things, cutting out bread, skipping fruit, saying no to pasta, saying no to carbs in general, but their energy is still unstable. The midsection weight gain isn't budging and the cravings aren't going away. They're just getting worse, right? So it's not that you're doing, if you've tried these approaches and you're doing them right now and you feel this way, it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's that your metabolism and your cells, which we'll talk about in a bit, need a different type of support. So before we dive into all of that, we have a lot that we're going to be covering today. Before we dive into that, the science, the why, the how, what's happening, and what to do about it. If you're new here, if you're tuning in on Instagram, if you see me looking this way, it's because I'm also live on other platforms. So I'm trying to make eye contact with everybody that's able to tune in live. If you're watching the replay, appreciate you too. But if you're new here, I'm Alexis Drillo. I'm a biologist specialized in cellular and hormonal health. Turned into personal trainer and nutrition coach. And over the last decade, my team and I have helped over 1,000 women break through plateaus and really transform their bodies by learning how to work with their unique biology, not against it. So I'm really passionate about this topic, especially today, because I had to personally learn it the hard way after a very serious cycling accident I had over 10 years ago. My whole system went off track. My hormones tanked. My thyroid slowed down. I lost my period for a year and a half. I gained weight and I just felt like a stranger in my own body. So I tried all the surface level stuff, strict diets, cutting carbs, eliminating gluten, more cardio, all the things you can think of, and nothing worked. And what finally moved the needle for me was getting to the root, understanding what was happening on a deeper cellular level, what was driving all these changes that were actually driven by the concussion, and just supporting my body's ability to use fuel better again, especially when it came to carbs. So that's why I want to share this with you today. And if you're new to my, whatever platform you're watching on, if you're new to my content, you'll see that I'm really, really passionate about increasing your body's capacity to function better. That way it makes everything else in your life easier. So if you've been cutting carbs, or if you've thought about it, or you've seen online, you're like, maybe I should do that to control my blood sugar, and you're still stuck, this talk is going to be for you. And if you know somebody who's doing this, you'll want to share this with them as well. You could even share it with them as we're live right now, or the replay after. So let's dive into it, because we're really gonna pull back the curtain here. We're really gonna go through three key pillars, three key things that are gonna help you lower your blood sugar in a way that gets your body working best for you. So the first thing is, I want to talk about the context. Like I said, it's really not about, cutting carbs is going to solve all of your blood sugar issues. It's really about the context and the capacity that your body's in. So your body is operating in. So the thing is, what usually spikes your blood sugar isn't carbs themselves. And let me show you what I mean. Okay. So I'm going to explain this. Picture this, you wake up and let's say you grab a slice of toast, right? Or a banana because you're on the go, you're rushing out the door. Maybe you take a sip of coffee and that's it. That's what it looks like lately, right? So within 30 to 60 minutes, your blood sugar has shot up, and then it comes crashing down. That's when a lot of women tend to feel that mid-morning crash, that the cravings kick in, the irritability, right? They just feel unstable overall. And that's what I call a naked carb, okay? So think of it as a carb eaten all by itself, right? Nothing there to slow it down. So it hits your bloodstream like a freight train, right? And now let's say, so we're comparing that, right? Let's say we're comparing that naked carb to that same piece of toast, right? But with eggs, eggs, maybe some avocado, maybe some nut butter for fats, or that same banana, but with Greek yogurt, and maybe a sprinkle of nuts, right? So all of a sudden that spike looks completely different. That the protein, the healthy fats, the fiber help to act like imagine as speed bumps, right? So they slow the release of glucose, they slow the release of sugar into the bloodstream. So you're able to get that steadier energy, fewer cravings, and your cells are actually able to use that fuel instead of storing it. Now, that food pairing that I just explained is one piece of the puzzle, okay? It's one part of the context. There's other things that are going to affect how your body responds to this. So often things like skipping meals, right? Or skipping meals, but overeating later, right? So let's say you skip breakfast, or you prolong it, or you push your meals later on to the day, especially if you're an active woman, right? And let's say you do a workout, you don't eat, you train fasted, then you don't eat till like 12, noon, and then you'll get a bigger spike because your body is just trying to play catch up. Or if you've had poor sleep, right? Even one night of poor sleep makes your cells less responsive to insulin the next morning. So that could also affect your body's ability to use it. Or if you're experiencing a higher stress season, right? Like cortisol, one of your stress hormones, raises blood sugar. So it does that on its own. So when you eat on top of that, it could spike it higher, right? So, and then of course, the obvious one, I'm sure you guys have heard about this everywhere, because again, blood sugar, like everybody's talking about it. But hormone changes in perimenopause and menopause. So as estrogen declines, your cells naturally become more insulin resistant. So that means your body doesn't clear glucose as efficiently as it used to. So combine that with muscle loss, right? Decline in muscle that often happens during that time as well because of the decline in estrogen. Your carb like parking lot is shrinking. Okay, so the same meal can lead to a higher spike. So this is why so many women say, I'm eating the same as I did in my 20s and 30s, or even my early 40s, but I'm feeling more, belly fat. My body's not responding. I'm feeling slower. I'm feeling more tired. Yes, the hormonal changes play a part in that, but most importantly, it's not just the hormones that are changing and that's why you're feeling that way. It's your hormones are affecting how the rest of your body is responding. So it's not, when it comes to carbs, it's not that carbs decided to suddenly turn against you, right? It's the context, it's the sleep, it's the stress, it's the meal timing, it's the hormonal changes that shift how your cells are responding to that. So a really easy place, a really simple thing, just to start off, just to shift things, is pair your carbs, right? So anytime you have a carb, always add it with like either a protein and or a healthy fat. Okay. And this is something that applies even with like fruit. If you're having an apple on its own, you're going to, unless you're like pairing it with a meal, of course, but always pairing it with a always pairing it with a healthy fat and or a protein. Another tactic to help shift this and help your body increase its capacity to use it better is front load your day. So get some protein at breakfast. Typically, what we like a good starting point, a good rule of thumb is like 25 to 30 grams of protein. Of course, if you're more active and depending, like I can't give generic, like I'm giving generic advice, right? What I'm saying now, right? 25, 30 grams, depending on your needs. Some women need a bit higher, right? If you're, depending on the type of workouts you're doing, but that's a really, really good place to start. And front loading your day with that protein, so you're not starting that day on that spike and crash roller coaster. And of course, making sure that you're adding some fiber, right? And this is a big problem when you limit carbs or when you cut carbs, is that carbs are fibrous, right? Carbs are naturally high in fiber. So if you're already cutting carbs, you're not going to get the fiber that you need. And that's very, like, everybody talks about protein, right, during perimenopause and menopause, but fiber is very, very important as well. So another reason why you don't want to cut carbs. So make sure that you're adding a little bit of fiber. Veggies, berries, whole grains, they make a huge difference. So you don't need to ditch carbs. You need to change the environment that you're, like, how you're eating them, right? That's the first thing. So that's the first step, pillar number one. Now, the second thing is thinking of increasing your capacity, your body's capacity, instead of restricting. So capacity over restriction. If you have a pen and paper with you right now, jot that down. Just start thinking that way. Capacity over restriction. This is the piece that most women miss. And again, it's not your fault. It's just diet culture over the years has led us to believe that, right? That more is better. Restricting more is better. You need to cut out food groups. If you have symptoms, just cut these things out and it's going to solve everything. Absolutely not. It's a sign that your body isn't functioning as best as it could be. And we need to increase its capacity to do its job better. So if you feel like your body can't handle carbs, the natural reaction is to cut them, right? But if your body is struggling to use carbs well, the real solution isn't eating fewer and fewer carbs, okay? We want to work on getting your body to use them better. So think of your muscles, okay, as a giant parking lot for glucose, for sugar. So every time you eat carbs, they break down into glucose and they need somewhere to go, right? We need to move things around. So if that parking lot is small because you've lost muscle over time or your hormones have shifted, then there's less space to store. So the more glucose that's floating around ends up floating around in your bloodstream. And on the other hand, if you have more muscle, then muscle is more metabolically active. And it's like having a huge parking lot with plenty of open spaces. So glucose gets shuttled into your muscle cells, and that's where it gets stored as glycogen and it's ready to be used for energy. So this helps keep your blood sugar levels more stable, your energy stays steadier, and your cravings calm down. So how do we increase that capacity? You're probably like, okay, that's great. Theoretically, Alexis, yeah, that makes sense. Parking lot, glucose, carbs, muscles, cool. But what does this mean? How do we go about this, right? So first thing is strength training is going to be the best bang for your time, right? So you don't have to live in a gym, okay? You don't even have to go to a gym. If you're just starting off with strength training, there's a lot you can do. And in fact, there's a lot I encourage you to do before even throwing yourself under a barbell or heavy weights, right? You want to build it up slowly. But we're talking about even minimum two full body strength workouts a week. That really helps to expand those parking spaces, right? Incorporate, like have more parking spaces for glucose. And this is especially important for women, once you hit your 30s and beyond, especially 35, 40 and beyond. But the earlier you start, like the better, right? But this is especially important because as estrogen starts to decline, we naturally lose more muscle mass over time. And again, like I mentioned before, we become more insulin resistant, which shrinks that parking lot. So strength training, again, minimum 2 full body workouts. This way you're hitting each muscle group at least twice per week. Really, really goes a long way. Now, when it comes to that too, there's also things you could be doing throughout your day. One of my favorite things to do for myself, for the women that we work with, is just incorporating more movement throughout your day. And it might seem so little, it might seem so simple, and like you might be thinking, oh, like what's the point? But it really adds up. So just something as simple as moving for like 5-10 minutes after meals. So let's say you have lunch at work and you sit all day throughout work, just getting up, walking around for like 5 minutes, go fill up your water bottle, go to the washroom, whatever the case. Moving after meals like lunch or dinner helps your muscles soak up glucose better, actually immediately. So you don't need a fancy workout, you just need movement and spraying around your day. That could really, really help. And again, like we said, with the first pillar, right, is pairing your carbs with protein and or fats, so healthy fats. And this really bridges pillar 1 and 2 because pairing your carbs with protein and healthy fats helps to keep your blood sugar more stable while your muscles are able to adapt and improve their capacity over time. So key takeaway here is cutting carbs doesn't solve the problem, right? It just limits the way that you're fueling your brain, your muscles, and also fuel that your hormones need. Now, the long-term fix is train your body to handle carbs better. And by keeping, keeping or rebuilding muscle and staying active, and also like how you're going about it with your overall training, your overall strategy throughout your day. That really depends on your unique body, your unique biology, your lifestyle, which again, it does require a bit more intention, but understanding these basics is a really good place to start. So this is also why so many women come to me saying like, I'm eating less, but I'm still gaining weight, or like I'm not eating carbs, but like I'm not seeing a difference. And again, it's not about eating less. It's not about cutting carbs. It's about rebuilding that capacity. So that brings me to the final point, number 3, is those consistency in daily habits. So this is where the real magic happens, okay? And anybody who's working, with Flexus Fitness right now, who's working with us or who has in the past, you guys all know that like one of our favorite lines, one of something that I repeat over and over again, same thing with everybody on the team, is consistency over perfection. Okay. This is something that's like ingrained in a lot of the women that work with us. It's like ingrained in their heads afterwards. So it's not, this is where the real magic isn't going to happen in a fancy supplement. It's not going to happen in a 30-day detox or juice cleanse or a 30-day carb detox and like eliminating carbs, right? It really happens in the simple, often what feels like boring actions, but powerful things that you're doing every single day and that you could stay consistent with because it works with your body, it works with your lifestyle, right? So what makes the biggest difference for blood sugar control especially is not perfection, it's consistency. Because your blood sugar, your metabolism, your hormones, they thrive on routine. Our biology likes consistent signals throughout the day. It thrives on that. So let's talk about the 4 key habits that help create that stable environment. So number 1, and I mentioned this in the first pillar, but I'm just going to bring it back here, is prioritizing protein at breakfast. So most women that I talk to think that they eat a lot of protein. Okay. At first they're like, oh man, like I'm eating so much protein. I'm upping my protein, right? When they come on board and we audit their day, because we always meet you like where your start, like what your current routine looks like, what your current habits look like. When we audit what's actually happening, it often looks like a small, like one of those small cups of yogurt, let's say an Oikos yogurt, like a small, like, cup of yogurt for breakfast. And they think that that's a really good source of protein, right? Or they start the day with, and if you're thinking that, like, I like, again, like, it's fine. Yogurt is a good source of protein, but it's just the quantity of protein in those small cups of yogurt. Or sometimes a lot of women that come to us, they start the day with carbs only, right? Or they maybe they have a fruit, maybe coffee, because they're keeping things light, or they're not hungry in the morning. And that's basically, again, that's asking for like that blood sugar roller coaster throughout the day. So when you start your day with 25 to 30 grams of protein, again, like I said, that's a good starting point, a good rule of thumb. Depending on your goals, you might need more. What that looks like could look different for everybody, but well, it does look different for everybody because we're all not the same, right? But for example, let's just say like that would, what that would look like is like 2 eggs and like half a cup of egg whites, 1 cup of Greek yogurt, or a scoop of protein powder, whatever the case, and you send that signal to your body to keep glucose stable. Okay, so it's always amazing. It's really amazing to see that shift when the women that we start to work with, they come on board, and we just make these like tiny tweaks at the beginning, right? And they just by changing their breakfast, they start to notice that shift, more energy, reduce cravings, and reduce mid-morning crashes. So that's the first and foremost, is like front loading your day with that protein. Make sure you're keeping everything stable for the rest of your day. Now, the second thing, and this is also a common thing that we see amongst the women that come on board, is like balancing out your meals. Okay, so a lot of women, before they come on board, they're like, you know what, I'm focusing on like good quality food. I'm focusing on balancing out my plate. Perhaps they've done other programs in the past that have like told, okay, you should have this much, on your plate, yada yada yada, right? So I always like to use that as, again, a visual cue, because balancing out your plates at each meal allows you to like have those anchors, right? And it's really, really simple. Like, no matter where you are, if you're on vacation, if you're at somebody's house, you're staying with family, you always have those anchors to fall back on. So think of your plate of having those anchors. So protein anchor, right? So again, like eggs, let's say in the morning, chicken, fish, whatever the case, tofu if you're vegetarian, if you're plant-based, colorful fibrous veggies, right? So half of your plate if possible, and then carbs, right? So again, like you could have the rice, you can have the potato, you can have the fruit, you can have the whole grain bread. It's just about how you're again increasing your body's capacity to use those, and how you're pairing it in that moment, not to spike things. And also just like a touch of healthy fats, right? So that could be olive oil, avocado, nuts, whatever the case. So again, it's not about cutting the carbs out, but you need to pair them with the right foods, and the right friends, right? Think of it as like the foods are their friends, right? So they're able to digest slower, they're able to keep your blood sugar more steady. And the 2 last ones, we talked about this one in the last pillar, but I just want to bring it up again because I want to emphasize that movement is so key. Okay, movement is so key for, again, our overall health, right? Cardiovascular health, brain health, and also your ability to make sure that you're able to uptake and use glucose, right? So you don't need hour-long workouts, right? Like I said, it's really even about like how you're sprinkling it in throughout your day. If you're looking to increase your body's capacity to use glucose better, those little moments throughout the day, the little movements, the exercise snacks go a long way. So even like I said before, a 5-10 minute walk, after lunch or dinner helps your muscles soak up glucose. One client of ours, one woman of ours that we work with, she started doing 2 laps, like literally it was 5 minutes around her block after dinner. And she even brought her husband along. Sometimes her kids come along with her. 2 loops after dinner, and it just became a part of her day now, and her glucose readings improved by 20 to 30 points after those meals. So not much, but it's a part of her day. It's a part of who she is now. It's part of her identity, and it's something that she looks forward to. And even her husband too. It's like it's just what they do, right? So again, those little movement snacks or exercise snacks, movement snacks, whatever you want to call it, go a long way. And the last piece is prioritizing sleep. And this one surprises a lot of people, but we always look at it as like a pyramid. Sleep and stress are at the bottom of the pyramid. When somebody comes on board and their sleep and stress, usually the 2 go hand in hand, are compromised, that's always where we start before layering on anything else, because your body, there's so much that depends on that. So if you're struggling with sleep right now, or even like one rough night, just makes your body more insulin resistant the next day. So that's why a lot of times, for a lot of people, they crave more sugar after a bad night of sleep or multiple nights of sleep, right? It's not just that like you're lacking willpower. It's literally your biology, it's craving that energy. So building a consistent wind down routine, dimming your lights, like just being more intentional about that, dimming your lights, putting your phone away. I personally have to put in another room a good like 30 minutes before bed, so I'm not, checking social media, checking emails, making sure that you have the same bedtime, the same wake up time. It does so much for that blood sugar control than most people realize. And again, it's not, as you can see, it's not about having to overhaul your whole life or chase perfection or do anything extreme. Like these few habits that we talked about today, and if you do them consistently, that consistency helps to create that environment that your metabolism needs to stay balanced. And when you build on that foundation, right? This is just like the tip of the iceberg, right? When you build up on that foundation, the occasional treat or holiday meal doesn't send your blood sugar spiraling, you're not going to feel icky after it. Like when your body's capacity has been built in a way that's working best for you, everything else gets easier. So if you take one thing away from today, let it be this. You don't need to fear carbs. You definitely don't need to cut carbs or any foods out of your life. It's about training your body to handle them better. Or again, any other foods, it's about training your digestive system to handle it better. It's about, training your body to be able to use these foods, enjoy them, and feel good after eating them, right? So for most women, again, especially if you're navigating, your 40s, 50s beyond, perimenopause beyond, the goal is not to shrink or restrict your way to health. It's about supporting your biology on a deeper level so your body can do what it's designed to do. And that's use glucose for energy, keep hormones balanced, and just recover and feel stronger overall. So that's why everything I do, everything I talk about, everything I teach is about building, not subtracting. I don't have that reduction mindset. It's really about building up on it. So building muscles so that you have more room to use and store carbs. Building balanced meals so that you're able to support stable energy. Building consistent daily habits so that your hormones do have something to rely on. Your biology does feel safe and it has those consistent signals, right? When you do that, you can include the foods that you love. You can enjoy meals with your family. You can still have stable blood sugar, better energy, and just easier fat loss if that is your goal, because your body is finally working with you and not against you. It's not fighting you. So number one, fix the context, like we talked about. Number two, build your capacity, build your body's capacity. And number three, stay consistent with core habits. And that, you deserve to have a body that feels good, that responds, energy that's steady, and meals that you actually enjoy and you look forward to, right? Without feeling like you have to restrict forever. So I hope this helped give you more context of what that should look like. If you have any questions about this or anything else, let me know in the comments below. Shoot me a DM. Always happy to chat more about that, and make sure that I'm sharing relevant and helpful content for you guys. And if you've been feeling like your body's just not keeping up anymore, maybe more energy swings, stubborn weight, that feeling that no matter how hard you're trying, how clean you're eating, how much you're training, how much you cut out, it's still not responding, that's a sign that you don't need to take more away, okay? It's a sign that your body needs to be supported properly, needs to rebuild its capacity, and that way you're able to use carbs as fuel. You're able to keep your blood sugar steady to feel strong and stable again. And if that's the way that you want to feel, you're ready to have that steady energy, you're ready to feel confident and in control with food, with your meals, like your body is finally on your side again and working with you, comment below or shoot me a message wherever you're watching from. You could message me personally, just write ready in caps, so comment below or message me ready. We could talk about what's been going on for you personally and figure out, just game plan those next steps for you to help your body respond the way that it's meant to. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this helps you feel more empowered to stop cutting things out, first off, and start training your body to handle them better. So you deserve a system that works with your biology, not against it. So appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, and I'll talk to you guys later.